Right, so let's just introduce myself first. So my name is Sabrina. I work at RubyConf Pakistan as a social media marketing expert. Apart from that, obviously, I am a Ruby enthusiast, which is why we are doing this webinar. So just to start off, a lot of people who have been watching some of our previous webinars would know that, we did this episode some time ago, like a couple of months ago, that focused more on when the COVID and the pandemic hit, we wanted to focus more on technical recruitment and how people could survive the job market. So that was basically that part in that specific episode. But this can be kind of like a part 2, but we wanted to focus more in this webinar with regards to how Ruby on Rails engineers and obviously allied areas, people who have done other programming languages, but we are focusing more on Ruby on Rails, that how can people, ace that job? How can they secure that job? What does it take to be the ideal candidate, especially in the tech industry, because we have seen that, especially during the pandemic, that the tech industry has been one of those industries that has managed to kind of survive. So, let's just start. Right, I would like to welcome our two very special guest speakers. We have Zaib Malik, who is the Technical Recruitment Specialist at Sendoso, and we also have Muhammad Bilal, who is a Senior HR Generalist also at Sendoso. So welcome, guys. I'm very thankful that you guys took out the time and came to RubyConf to be a part and enlighten us with what people look for, like what do employers look for when they are hiring, what is their thought process. So that's very important for us. So let's just start. Bilal, please go ahead. We would like to hear more about a little bit about your background and everything.
Okay, sure. So obviously the name is Bilal and I have nearly 6 years of experience working with the IT industry. My core area of expertise has been revolving around technical talent acquisition, which is technical recruitments, obviously. I have worked with companies like Confiz, NorthBay, and currently I'm part of Sendoso. And first of all, I would like to thank you for letting us both represent Sendoso on RubyConf's platform to share our views on the subject. So let's just start. Let's see.
All right, thank you so much. Right, so Zaib, could you please tell us a bit about yourself as well, and we'll just start.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you so much, Sabina, for the warm welcome. I am pleased to be here. I have total 4 years of experience currently working at Sendoso and hiring Ruby on Rails engineers, and excited to hire more. I think it will be helpful for the Ruby on Rails engineers here, so they can contact us directly, and I hope we can be of great help. And previously I have worked at Arbisoft and Abacus, and now here I am.
Right, awesome. Thank you so much. Right, so I will just start off with my very first question that is more or less related to, just very generic, keeping it very generic. So Bilal, I have a question for you. Keeping it from a recruiter's perspective, what is the current job market situation in general, obviously, like what's the potential for growth? And more importantly, when I become more specific, I would like to know how the engineers, especially the ROR engineers, have been affected. Right, Bilal, you are on mute. Yeah, so that's the problem we've been facing the whole 2020, not a problem. Please continue.
So I believe your question has two sections. The first one is concerning about the job market situation. Let's talk about that first. Yes. The past year has been very tough for everybody in some way or the other, as you all know. We have seen the market changing market dynamics, which actually resulted into changing our style of work. And it's been almost a year this pandemic hit the world, but a lot of companies and different industries are still recovering and they are still working from home. Talking on the subject, on your question, if I may share a few numbers with you on the economic backlash this pandemic has created. We all know that this pandemic has actually resulted into a loss of 80 million plus jobs in just the Asian region. And if we talk about Pakistan, there are more than 18 million people who have lost their jobs during the past year. These figures were actually shared by International Employment Organization, ILO, the last month. But since the majority of our local IT companies have their engineering workforce based in Pakistan, while their whole clientage was based in the US, European, or Middle East markets, which is why the global market situation of the businesses directly affected our local companies as well, because the clientage was based in the foreign countries. But here's the good news. The world is obviously on a recovery stage and things are getting with each day passing. So, which is why the market situation is improving as well. New projects are coming, new ideas are coming in, and with a lot of, and also we saw a lot of new initiatives in the market which helped bridging the gap this pandemic has created. For example, there has been a cross industry talent exchange program where actually people from different industries actually moved their workforce to other industries who had the excess of demand for workforce during this pandemic session. So that was, I mean, a good initiative. It started in the US and then it led to uh, Europe and Asian markets as well. But on the other hand, we saw a tremendous growth in the IT and digital space. For example, we saw a huge growth with Zoom. I mean, we're talking on Zoom. This company actually saw actually saw skyrocketing increase in their customer base. Same goes for Netflix. There were other industries as well who are in the digital space. For example, digital advertising companies, there's cybersecurity, e-commerce, online education, online food delivery industries. They saw huge, humongous growth. So, keeping it short, all the companies who were working in such industries or producing such products, which actually worked on these industries, they recruited a lot of technical workforce. So the people, even who got, I mean, losing their jobs, they actually got a lot of other opportunities from these industries, from these companies who were working into this space. So overall, talking about Pakistan, it actually saw a growth as far as the IT industry is concerned. And yes, when you talk about IT industry, it includes sales engineers as well. So I don't feel there was a, I mean, a downfall much in the IT industry, uh, keeping in view the nature of the business that we are doing.
Right, right.
So that's pretty much about the overall growth and potential of this industry.
Right, right. Awesome. Well, that was very detail oriented, Bilal. I absolutely do agree with your opinion, especially in terms of like, talking about last year, 2020, work from home is like a word that has been used and it has been thrown pretty much everywhere. But I think at the same time, it's kind of like, as an from the employer's perspective, you can see that, okay, there are other ways that, people or employees can actually work. We don't really have to come in the office every single day. If there's work, it can be done from, at home, at a co-working space. It's not very necessary that you have to come to the office. But so that's one thing. The other thing that I felt that, work from home has been very convenient for a lot of people. Obviously, convenience wasn't the reason behind it, but at the same time, work from home, I feel that it has given a broader horizon. I would say that, a lot of companies from different countries, they kind of have this, now they can actually collaborate, and they're looking for freelancers that are coming from different countries. Like I know in 2020, Fiverr and Upwork, they've had like a huge boost, because a lot of people, when they were unfortunately laid off, some of them actually projected their career towards becoming a freelancer and working for international clientele. So the work from home factor has also diminished that barrier, which I feel is very nice. And it has helped a lot of employees and professionals, especially from second or third world countries, that, yes, we are, people here from belonging from different countries who can actually give you a lot of like, services. So I think that's great. Right. So moving.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. It actually opened a lot of horizons for the freelancers. I mean, the companies who are based in the US or European or even, I mean, Middle East markets, who were reluctant to actually hire workforce from outside their countries. This
Yeah.
pandemic actually made their own workforce sitting in their own countries uh, to work from home, which actually created an opportunity for the freelancers or the people who are sitting in other countries. They were able to actually get those jobs as well.
Yes.
So it actually worked very well for the IT industries. Yeah, yes.
Absolutely. Right. So moving on to my next question, which is for Zaib. So, when we are talking about how companies responded to the COVID situation and the pandemic, we would like to know more, like RubyConf would like to know how Sendoso actually responded to that situation, like in terms of the job market, what happened at Sendoso?
Okay, so to answer the first part of your question, luckily Sendoso was never directly affected by the COVID situation. Since COVID hit back in Pakistan in Q2 2020, we shifted from real time to virtual times, and way of working and hiring completely changed. Literally, our lives were changed. And fortunately, it did not hit our like Sendoso's hiring situation at all. In fact, our headcount doubled in number. We're almost close to 100 now.
That's
Our
very
company
impressive.
is Yes. Our company is always creating new engineering positions. Our HR is always trying to establish relationships with different universities to tap them and connect with different talent. This strong and active agenda to hire from engineering sector contributes back positively, always positively. You can say we never had a hiring freeze at Sendoso. ROR is an ongoing position at Sendoso. We are always on a watch out on Ruby on Rails engineers. So searching for top talent and looking actively, we were looking and we are still looking to hire more engineers. So again, hiring at Sendoso for Ruby on Rails engineers never stops. I would like to tell everyone that they can easily apply us at HRD at sendoso.com. They can contact me, Zaib Malik, Muhammad Bilal, and Adil Qureshi, our manager, to send us their CVs and to get more information about Ruby on Rails. And last, they can also apply on our careers page on our website and get a detailed job description. So we're always open to hire Ruby on Rails engineers
Yeah,
Right.
all the time.
all the time.
I think that's very, I mean, the ability to actually retain the existing employees itself, I can understand it's a challenge, but to be able to hire even more engineers, I think that's amazing. And not a lot of employers. This was actually one of those, you can say, one of those opportunities, if you must say, or one of those situations where employees actually needed their employers to help them. So I think if certain companies have been able to respond to that situation in a positive light, I think that's great. So now I think I would like to become more specific because, since our webinar is focused more about, how to secure that job. And since you said, you guys are hiring at Sendoso and you guys do inject a certain amount every quarter. So I want to know, Bilal, that what is the process of recruitment for our engineers, keeping that in mind at Sendoso? Like, what's the criteria for different levels, like entry level, mid-senior level? I would like to know the whole process, and I'm sure that our viewers would like to know as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the levels first. I mean, we have actually 6 levels, which are divided into 3 different categories of positions. For example, we have software engineer positions, we have senior software engineer positions, and then there is a position of principal software engineer. Now, each position have 2 levels, level 1 and level 2 for each of these roles. Now, how do they change is the level of responsibility that you have on your shoulders. Let's talk about the software engineer category first. We do hire from freshers up to 2 years of experience within that category for the software engineer title. And what we look for in that category is what is the criteria? That's a good foundation with the computer science fundamentals, which includes OOP, databases, data structures, algorithms, and to some extent, your design patterns as well. If you're not very much pro in Ruby on Rails language, that's all right. We can always train you. We have that facility available with us. But you need to be good with the computer science basics. Talking about the senior software engineer position, yes, here you will be having more responsibilities on your shoulder. We would want to see you in the lead role within that category, and the number of experience that we look for within that category is within that category, that comes with 3 years to 6 years for the senior software engineer position. And what skills do you need to have to qualify for that? Obviously, you need to be very good with your computer science basics, the fundamentals that is shared. But along with that, you need to be good with TDD, which is test-driven development concept, and BDD, which is behavior-driven development. And along with that, you need to be very good with the agile concepts, because we use agile as a project management methodology at Sendoso, and we follow it religiously. We are a product-based company. So things change when you actually are working for your own product. The level of quality of your work actually increases a lot, and the expectations are very high from your customers, and you also want to deliver the best. So that's for senior software engineer position. Now coming to the senior or principal software engineer position, here you will be working on the architectural side as well. And definitely you will be designing complex design patterns. You will be designing schemas using SQL. You will be expected to write a maintainable and a quality tested code. I mean, you will be in a very senior and a lead position when you will be hired as a principal software engineer for Ruby on Rails at Sendoso. So these are the expectations and criteria. And yes, as I told, TDD, BDD concepts, agile, you need to be very pro in that. And we would expect you to lead the team of senior software engineers and software engineers if you're being hired as a principal software engineer, because this is one of the most senior positions for Ruby at Sendoso.
Right. Thank you so much. Right. Yes, I do agree with you. So we do have a question from Azmat Ali. He asked, at times we are very good at a certain language like Ruby on Rails, but still don't get a chance to get that job. What's missing?
Okay, interesting. Well, the person has asked this question on a very, very right time. So supposedly you're very good with Ruby on Rails. You're good with this language. Your command on this language, but you're not following agile in your current job, or with your current experience or your background, or you're not doing the test-driven development approach within your current job with your previous experiences. So that's missing, and we expect you to have that knowledge. For example, you are contesting for a software engineer position. That's okay, we can train you. But if you are contesting for a senior software engineer or a principal position, we would be expecting you to know these things as well. Along with that, we want you to be very good with communication skills, because we have a huge team which is sitting in the US. More than 150 of our workforce is in the US. So you need to be very good with your communication skills, because Sendoso is not one of the companies where only project managers or business analysts gets to talk to the foreign workforce. Our engineers also have to make presentations, and they have to deliver demos to their clients. So they need to be very good with communication skills. So even if you're good at Ruby and you are not good with communication skills or following agile practices, there is a chance for improvement, I would say. That's missing.
Right. I think there can be a number of things. It depends on how your interview went. I think there are certain cues in terms of body language. Now, that's just a very generic thing that I'm saying, but I have seen that there are certain cues in body language that you can see that, when the person is actually interviewing you, how is that person actually taking your response to a certain question? So I think you really need to see what body language cues are there, and whether your answer was correct. I actually do recommend certain candidates who come for interviews that you should be very well researched and well versed in what you are saying, because I think that's very important. And at the same time, the impression of what you know and how much your concepts are clear, I think that is the main thing, which is like the deciding factor if the person is qualified for the job. So I think that's very important.
Yes, that is important too. I would agree.
Right. Okay, so let's, since we were talking about different hierarchical positions, Zaib, I think I would like to focus more about the entry-level positions. Like, that we do have a lot of students who are graduating every year from different universities. So the main question is that, what is the criteria, or how can those entry-level students be, or what things can they add on to their resume? Because obviously they don't have experience, so it becomes challenging for them to see that, okay, so I don't have experience, what can I do to make my resume stand out? And how are they, how can they even start a career at a company like Sendoso or other companies where there are a lot of like mid-senior and senior level professionals?
Okay, so we know there is a huge number of students graduating every year. So if we talk about Sendoso and we talk about 2020, we have recently hired, like in COVID times, almost around 15 to 20 fresh graduates. So I would just like to guide them a little bit at how they can get that Ruby on Rails job, which topic, about the topic. So firstly, I think the first interaction which they're going to do with the recruiter is their resume. So they need to work a lot on their resume. We are just going to look at their resume and just see that we can shortlist them or not before even talking to them. So they need to work a lot on their resume. They need to know like a little bit about their company as well. Do a little research. If you're really interested in applying at some company, you should clearly know about the JD. You should know a little bit about the company. That shows your interest as well. Because if you're just applying randomly on every post and in every company, you're not going to get any job because you're just applying randomly. So I'll just also like at the end, I'll also give an example of two resumes, how a good and like above average resume looks like and how a below average resume looks like. But before that, I'll just tell a little bit more points. Keep yourself updated, keep your resume updated, keep your LinkedIn profile updated, and just join different communities. Like Ruby community is a very like good initiative and a very good page where freshers can also join and they can get to know about the opportunities where different companies are offering, and they can get help from the experienced people as well. So on LinkedIn, they need to join different groups. That's the point where they can get to know about the job. And if we come back to resume, I'll just share my screen and I'll just a second. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So here are two resumes. One is resume B and one is resume A. So let's discuss about resume B first. It's the below average resume. You can see there is just a little bit information, insufficient information is given, just name, number, and even I can't even see that when the candidate is graduated and when he's going to graduate, has he done any internship or any certifications? So I can't get any kind of information from the resume B. It's the below average resume. If I see this resume, definitely I'm just going to put this resume, you can see, on one side, and I'm not going to even shortlist this resume. And when it comes to resume A, you can see very, very precisely every sufficient information is given, every important information is given. Contact information, every kind of LinkedIn profile is also given. It should be updated, as I told you, that recruiters are looking to the LinkedIn profile as well. Education is given, and the skills, which important skills you think you have, and it's a kind of request to the like you can say candidate, just write only that information which you think you can prove. Don't write excess amount of information which you don't have, and even if a recruiter asks you some questions about it and you're not able to answer, that's not the, you can say that's not the right way to approach. And if you think that recruiter is going to shortlist your profile seeing a lot of things written on your profile, that's wrong. That's not the right way. So you can just have a look at both the resumes and easily differentiate. For a recruiter, it becomes more easy. And except these, if we like accept the resume, there are some other things. I'll just stop scaring. Sure. Okay, so there are some other things which are important. Soft skills are also important for a fresh graduate. You should work on your communication, your obedience, your attitude towards learning. These are the points which you should have and which should like be in your personality when you are there for an interview. And there are a few basics on which you are going to be evaluated, because you don't have any kinds of experience, that is databases, OOP, data structures, and algorithms. These are the four basic things on which an interviewer is going to evaluate you.
Right, right. Awesome. So, one thing I'd like to touch base here, the Zaib that you mentioned about certifications and internships. I think
Yes.
ever since, again, relating it to COVID and the pandemic and, the situation that it created, certifications, I feel, have like a huge impact because, just having a
Definitely.
degree is now not enough because yes, obviously in a degree in computer science, you do know the basics of everything, but now employers are moving towards more skill based, you can say, characteristics in a certain candidate. And I think that doing certifications is very, very crucial, especially if you are just starting out your career. It depends, obviously, again, that which programming language. Obviously in our case it would be Ruby, definitely, in the framework Ruby on Rails. But I think certifications kind of give you that extra edge
Yes.
in having your resume shortlisted. So that's one
Yes.
thing. One more thing I'd like to add. Yes, please.
No, sorry.
So no, that's pretty much what I was saying, is that certifications do help you get that extra edge, and there are a number of platforms that give you free courses. We actually did a blog on this as well. That these are some of the RR courses you need to do. So you can do Ruby on Rails courses from LinkedIn Learning, from Pluralsight, from Code Academy, edX. I mean, there are like a number of options. So there's that. So please continue.
Yeah. So I was saying it's not important to have that. It is, but at some point, if you are not able to get that good CGPA, you can still do certifications if you have that learning attitude. If you want
Absolutely.
something, you can work for it. So nowadays, it has become more easy to learn and you can get what you want. If you are passionate about it, I think nothing is impossible. So you once an engineer, always an engineer. So if you want to do it, you can learn more, add more to your skills, and you can get that job.
Right. Absolutely. And yes, that's a very valid point, that, the learning actually never stops. So even if you're, maybe you have like 3-4 years of experience, 5 years of experience, you can still add on to your skill set and add on to your portfolio. So I think that's pretty great. One more thing, I think it's very interesting, obviously, since you guys are in HR, you would know, I mean, you guys can, elaborate more on this, that most of the resumes, how they're shortlisted, are on the basis of, generic, more specific keywords. Like, there are certain keywords that you need to add in your resume in order to be shortlisted. So for example, if someone is a Ruby on Rails engineer, they would want to have certain concepts or certain terminologies within within their resume, so their resume can be screened. So what do you think about that? Like, what's your opinion?
Yes, that is important, because I think, as I told you before as well, that in a resume, I think your first, you can say, 2 to 3 skills are the skills which you think you are best at. The rest of the skills you're just writing to fill your resume. We know that. Recruiters know that. By seeing your resume, we can judge that, and it is important to write that skills and like be kind of be shortlist on that like that criteria as well.
Right.
And rest of the thing, and the last point, one more thing, that for freshers specifically, do consider and do take that pre-screening call seriously, because we are going to judge a lot of things on that pre-screening call. If you think it's just a call, they're just calling to just getting a little bit about us, and you're just trying to end the call, you're busier, take your time. If you're not available, tell us you're not available right now, we'll call you after few minutes. But that is important, to be perfect. That is your, you can say, 40 to 50% of part of your interview. So you need to prepare for that as well.
Right.
Yeah, and let me add something to this, Zaib. The thing is, at Sendoso, we believe in the concept of learning and adapting to a change. So it's not just the word Ruby that we want to see on your resume. For example, if you're a senior software engineer, a principal software engineer who's working on any of the other open source languages like Python, or if it is Go, Laravel, or even JavaScript, it's Node.js. We extend this opportunity to you all. Come join us, train with one of the best Rails engineers in town, and we will be training you on Ruby on Rails, and you will get that opportunity. And interestingly, that comes with no downgrade on your current composition package. Instead, you will be offered something better.
Yes,
Right.
that's a promise.
Yeah.
So let's just answer some of the questions we're having from the viewers. So Tim is asking, do you guys hire remotely in Pakistan for software engineer positions at Sendoso?
No, we're
Not
not
for now.
having.
Right.
Yeah, not for now. I would say different circumstances, we do that for very short-term assignments. But if we have a permanent position, we would like to have a resource who is based in Lahore, or who is willing to relocate in Lahore. I mean, it doesn't matter where you live in Pakistan. We will be helping you relocating, be it financially or the logistics wise. The HR and admin department is there, and we will help you out with that. We already have a few people who belong to the other cities of Pakistan, like Islamabad and even Karachi as well. And Sendoso has helped them settle in Lahore, even with their families. So we will help you with that. But if you are contesting for a permanent role, we would prefer you to work from the office, which is based in Lahore.
Yes.
Right. Well, thank you so much. So we are just about to end our session. Let's just wait for, actually, we do have another question from Moaz. He is asking, how is the market for our engineers? Do we have supply, since companies here complain most of the times? What is your take on it?
I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat that?
Moaz is actually asking that how is the job market for Ruby on Rails engineers?
Okay, job market. Well, Sendoso is aggressively hiring. So we have a lot of opportunities for Ruby on Rails engineers. I don't want to name other companies who's working on Rails. I mean, but there are a lot of opportunities. And just to explain the growth potential with this language, if that's the question, uh, I think the person should be seeing the session delivered by Jawad Sadiq, who even explained the amalgamation of Ruby on Rails with data sciences. And we all know the world is moving towards the data sciences, right? So
Right.
Ruby is capable enough to work with data science, and you can imagine, you can estimate the growth potential for this language. So the market is huge. These Ruby on Rails engineers are pretty much in demand.
Right. Well, all right. So that's enough for the questions. Thank you so much, Bilal and Zaib, for joining RubyConf again. It was really nice having you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
And yeah,
All right, guys. Take care.
Take
take
care,
care.
Rafis.
Allah Hafiz.
Bye. Bye.